Hi, this is Andy calling from Growing Up Aspen, Adventures of the Unsupervised. And I'm here with Chris Pomeroy, and we had so much fun interviewing Adam Kane for our Joiners Table podcast that we have decided to start another movie chat podcast with Adam Kane. So, hope you enjoy. So Adam, you got into some film festivals. Do you have some favorite film festivals that you've been to, experienced?
Uh, Temecula was great.
Hmm.
The LA Shorts Film Festival was
Yeah, I've been in that.
it's a really good festival. New York Film Festival I like a lot. Oxford Film Festival is really good.
Uh-huh.
Now, granted, like I have to say, like a lot of my impressions are from a very long time ago
Right.
because I haven't been in the festival circuit for well over 15 years.
But
So
you went as a filmmaker,
I
right?
went as yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I feel like I go to Telluride as a pass holder, which is interesting experience. It's different. Obviously, it's gotten so expensive now that it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Um, but as a there were certain festivals that I felt like were really interesting connector festivals that did give you a little bit of a traction on other things. You know what I mean? Like for me in animation, Melbourne International was one of those that really did something. And Heartland was a pretty good one. I know a lot of studios try to get their films in there because they have the Truly Moving Picture Award. And I know Disney tries to get, they actually always get something over there. But
Yeah, I think it's a changing landscape and festivals. Like I went to Sundance in 2000
uh-huh,
and it was already so taken over by the studios and corporatized that what Sundance had been built on was not even what it was anymore.
right, right,
Then, this is like 25 years ago.
right, right,
It's like unfortunately anything that becomes a business and loses that air of its the purity with which it was started, which I think, I don't think Redford ever meant for that festival to ever become what it became.
right,
Maybe he did, I don't know.
right.
But in the end, it's like you can't tell me that like Sundance is like the bastion of independent filmmaking. It's like, give me a break. It's a rollout for studios.
Right, right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's definitely
The
changed.
the pre-Oscars, Oscars, yeah.
But I also feel like that's the people that are running the festival have the ability to shape some of that. I mean, I feel like Telluride's gotten more expensive, but it actually and it's added a couple extra screens over the time period. I mean, I've been going since '93, and it still sort of is kind of that little festival that it used to be. It hasn't changed that much. The same people, Ken Burns is in there, Werner Herzog is in there. The same people have been there for a long time, kind of as, and the festival itself is kind of, a lot of what it tries to do is bring international films from around the world. So yes, we did see Enclave. It was there, and he was there talking. So you got to speak to him,
Mhm.
and I felt like that's the kind of stuff that Telluride has, where it's small and has maintained stuff where anybody can ask anyone questions. Nickel Boys were there. It was kind of an interesting setup. Telluride Sundance, you can't do that. It's too big. It's huge. You don't have a
Right.
little park where you go talk and there's 50 people show up. It's
This
massive.
is a cinematographer when I went, and I had trouble getting into my own screening.
Right.
Kidding. It's like, and
And you are?
it, it's and I was invited there by the director, so it's like it's when it's that privileged, then you automatically lose a lot of the freedom
Right.
that comes with the idea of celebrating film in the first place. It's a marketing campaign
Right.
for your corporation to position something to make money later. It's visibility and publicity. And I get it. I get it, but it's like I don't know of a film festival now that isn't that's a major player. Like Berlin, Cannes,
Yeah.
Venice, like
Toronto. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
Toronto,
Yeah.
they're all the same, you know.
Well, Toronto had a big war with Telluride because Telluride's first, Toronto's next. But then
Yes,
again, Venice is before Telluride, so things come from Venice to Telluride. And Toronto basically put an ultimatum that said if you show a film at Telluride, you're going to be at the end of the festival. You're not going to get pole position. And
right.
so, again, some people just don't care and they'd rather be shown and hang out with some people up in the mountains than go into a big city and be talk business. In other words, it's a little easier when you're talking business at a little coffee shop on a mountain town like Aspen than it is in Toronto in a big city.
I agree. I would say like the only festival that I know of that still has a bit of that mystique is Kamery Maj in Poland.
Uh-huh.
That is truly, for the most part, been able to preserve a celebration of the arts because it's sort of starting from this idea of what is the most spectacular cinematographic movies or documentaries that have emerged on the scene in the last year, and let's celebrate those. And sometimes they are big movies, and sometimes they're not.
Right. Right. Yeah. I feel like yeah, it's interesting how the festival circuit has sort of changed, evolved in its own self. I mean, we've talked about the business change, but also festivals have changed.
I mean, I went to NYU, and that's like there's no bigger business in the education system than NYU. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like everything gets swallowed up by greed and capitalism in the end, in a capitalistic society.
That's the theme, that's kind of like what the whole Aspen thing is all about. It's
Well, yeah,
just,
I mean, that's why I tell people like, like I mentor people now, and sometimes I give clinics or classes, and I always tell filmmakers, you think you're a director and you don't have to sell your own stuff and produce it? Think again.
Yeah.
You better look in the mirror and ask yourself how bad you want it, because no one's going to come along and do the work for you. It's hard.
Well, and
And
that's why I always tell people take business classes, take
yeah,
marketing classes.
yeah.
Don't just draw, I draw, but also take these other things because you're going to need to learn those stuff.
yeah, but I think that goes back to what Adam was talking about earlier with the way we were raised. And at that time, it was, especially in Aspen, where we would bump into people of, Rupert Murdoch or Donald Trump or whoever. We had this ideal planted in our heads that if you try hard enough, you work hard enough, you can be like that guy.
Right.
And I think you're right, Adam. It's not true. And we were never like that guy. We didn't inherit $400 million and have a chance to build a business from it. It's just the way it works. And I think some people will call it the late stage capitalism or whatever, but in the end, you're not gonna be discovered because you're on YouTube or because you have the best makeup tutorial or whatever the heck it is. You got to work for it. And that's the hard part.
Well, and to your point, Chris, like one of the things that I absolutely learned in Aspen, and I was encouraged to do from everybody, teachers at school to uh, uh, Nick DeWolf,
Yeah.
is if you want to do something, go ask for it, go talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that's been a life lesson I've always carried with me. And it hasn't always brought me the result I wanted, but more often than not, it's brought me a level of success that I wouldn't have had otherwise. Because if I don't ask for something, the answer is already no.
Well,
Yep,
it opens
exactly.
opportunities. It
Yeah.
opens opportunities for you to take advantage of or not. You know what I mean?
Well, and sometimes being denied an opportunity that you really want will teach you a different lesson for the future. And what I see a lot today is that there are kids that are afraid to ask for what they want. And that's not how I was encouraged when I grew up in Aspen. I was encouraged to, yeah, go talk to the guy who runs the Hotel Jerome if you want to play your band in their state. Why not?
Right, right.
He's a nice guy,
Well,
you
how
know?
many people have you met in this life too that'll just tell you there's no way that's ever going to happen? She's like, why would you think it's okay to just contact that famous musician or whatever it is? Like, because he's a human being too. He goes through some of that stuff and realizes, hey, this guy might have a good point, you know?
I can't tell you how many people I have reached out to in my career for a recommendation to hire somebody on a job because they worked for Steven Spielberg's cinematographer Janusz Kaminski. And there was a job I did in 1998 where I got a resume for a camera operator who said he worked on Amistad, which is a movie that Spielberg directed.
Mm-hmm.
His name didn't look familiar to me. So I happened to have like confiscated Kaminsky's number a couple of years earlier when I was commercial. I saw his number on a call sheet and I was like, I grabbed that, put it in my phone. And so I cold called him and I got his answering machine. And 10 minutes later, like over the intercom in the production office, Adam, Janusz Kaminski on 2 for you. Never met him, right? Called me back and we talked for about 10 minutes and that was it, you know? And I said, hey, thanks for calling me back. Listen, I got this resume of this guy, but I know you use Mitch Dubin as your camera operator. So I just want to find out if you know this dude, because it sounds like somebody's lying on their resume. I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know? And we talked. So it was great. But I've had a lot of experiences like that. And I've absolutely had some calls not returned. But if you don't play, you can't win.
Yeah.
It's like the lotto.
I did that with Pete Seeger. I was wanting to do a music video and do some grant proposal writing, so I tapped into him, and he wrote back and said, "I'll write even a letter." And we did that. We did a grant proposal and all that stuff. I figured with Pete Seeger on top, that would be great. We got 1 grant. We needed like 5. You
got 1 more than you may have gotten otherwise. So
yeah, exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, I see the tentative nature of some young adults now. Wow, that I can even say that makes me want to shoot myself.
I thought we were the young adults. Here we are, the old guys.
Now I'm the old guy. It's like I see the tentative nature of people, and I just have to keep saying, like, you got to go out and ask for what you want. And like that is a value that was encouraged by adults in Aspen.
Yeah.
Not just teachers at my school, not just like, the guys at Great Divide Music who ran that shop. Like everybody was like
Tom Crum, everybody. Yeah.
Everybody. So like, I mean, I'm really grateful for that because I don't even begin to think I would have had half the opportunities that I've had if I hadn't had pushed and gone after what I wanted.
I sort of am appreciating my childhood a lot more because of that. I'm beginning to realize that it was kind of lucky, timing and everything, but it was a magical existence that we had.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just thinking about what you said, Adam, and there's the part of the mythos, again, going back to you can be huge like everyone else, blah, blah, blah. People who are successful a lot of times will always say, well, you have to know how to spot an opportunity and grab it when it's there. And I think there's some truth to that. But I think what you're saying is actually more valuable in that you have to find the opportunity in the first place, because opportunities don't just come flying to you and you missed it. Oops, sometimes they do. But they're definitely going to if you don't ask and if you don't go for it. And I think that's really pretty solid advice, man. It's pretty good.
One does have to confront fear of failure when you're in that headspace.
Yeah.
And I recognize that that's a very difficult topic for a lot of people, myself included. I mean, it is frightening to reach out to somebody with the fear of rejection. But on the other hand, I think the alternative is worse, like the regret of living a life where you knew you could have done something and you chose not to. And I don't want to live in that kind of memory. I'd much rather fail. But that's my personality. I had a much easier access entry point to that because my parents never discouraged me from being artistic. They were both musicians. They were both artists. So when I wanted to go into the arts, it wasn't, when are you going to get a real job? There was none of that stuff going on, I didn't have the opposition, even though, I had parents that were somewhat absent. But like I was encouraged, like because they were both in the arts as well. So I'm lucky like that because I know that not everybody has that.
Yeah, that is cool.
My
I got
grandfather.
a lot of the opposite of that. As a matter of fact, my dad gave me the choice. He said, "Okay, you either go to college or you go to the army." And
No,
I
there's
was like,
not
"Well,
a choice.
what about an art trade school?" And he's like, "Let me say it again. You either go to college or you go to the army, or you're out on your ass." And that was it, you know.
Right.
So,
My point exactly. It's like those kinds of experience shape us
yeah.
in ways that we cannot imagine at the time. It's only looking back in the rear view, I think, that you can really get the full appreciation of what those things do to us.
I, I remember my grandfather at graduation told me at the music tent, we asked about success. We were talking about stuff, and he said, "You know what? Give me enough darts, I'll hit the target." And
I
it,
agree with
yeah, and it really made me realize, you know what? No isn't an answer. No is just change what you're doing and come at it at a different angle, because eventually you will land it, And I felt like that was some pretty sage advice.
Also, you have to be willing to fail in order to learn how to succeed.
Right.
And that is something that's not always taught in households or schools. There's this emphasis on performance
Hmm.
uh, in the education system to get an A, to get a certain grade point average so you can get into a good college, this kind of thing. And I think it's flawed thinking. It's performance based. It's not actually learning based.
Right.
Uh, and I'm lucky that I had enough of a self-starter personality um, that I didn't have to rely on my grades, frankly.
Right.
They were not horrific, but they were not stellar.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was the
Not
same.
a great student.
Guilty.
So it's like, I didn't get into my top two choices of colleges. I got into my third choice, which was still pretty great. It was NYU. It's like, I don't regret it at all.
Right.
I don't wish that I had gone to Cal Arts.
Right.
Um, I wish at the time I had been accepted to Cal Arts, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
So in the end, I haven't suffered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was willing, but Ira Glass from NPR. I don't know if you're familiar with Ira Glass, who
Yeah. Uh-huh.
of This American Life,
Yep.
but he's got this awesome 2 minute thing that I listen to every once in a while, and he describes it as like the 10,000 pots. It's the 10,000 pots that a pottery person has to do and get through before they can start doing good work.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's usually the impasse for most people because most people give up
Right.
because they can't tolerate the feeling of failure.
Yeah.
And I think in anything, that's where we need to get. And I didn't have that sense from what I learned growing up in Aspen. I had the sense that no, just keep swinging. Just pick up the bat and swing again.
Yeah.
You're going to miss the ball. That's okay.
Right.
Right. There was not a sense of like, well, you'll never get anywhere unless it's like I didn't have that messaging. And I'm really grateful that I didn't.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, even in tennis, it was like, once you got that serve in, it was like, cool, all right, now I've got it. It took you a while to get it, but once you
Right.
got that serve, it was like, holy crap.
Well,
And
there's like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours of, to become a professional at something.
Right. Same idea.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I remember when I was in college, I wanted to be a writer. And let me just preface that with saying everything I wanted to do in college uh, involved thinking deep thoughts about being unemployed, philosophy, art, writing, you name it. What else could I do? But same thing, if you wanted to get your writing into any kind of magazine, even the little literature magazines to a major publisher, now it's all changed now, but you know, I can't tell you how many no's I got. And I look back on the stuff I sent to these people, and it's more a question of not knowing who my audience was in some cases, writing that today would go over just fine. But back in 1993, they were probably like, whoa, who is this guy? Why would he think that we would publish this, So, yeah, you get a lot of no's and a big stack of loser letters, and eventually somebody bites and you get published, and then all of a sudden people start asking you about it and whatever else. And then you keep going with it and hope for the best.
I did the same thing, Chris. Like when I was at the beginning of my cinematography career, and my resume read like, 3 student films from NYU.
Right.
I sent my resume in for a movie made by Mike Figgis, the British director, with Richard Gere, and it was called Mr. Jones. This was in the early 90s. And I got a rejection letter. And I've kept that letter because of how kind it was for Figgis's assistant to do that. Because there was no world where I was going to get that job.
Right.
But that I was trying was really, really, it was notable to them, And the message that I can look back now and say, they were just telling me keep going. It was very polite and British, Paramount UK is on the headliner of the, what made me think that I was going to get this job? But it's been the same philosophy that I follow today. If you don't try, you're not going to get. If you don't ask, you will not receive. If you don't, you will not win, because the answer without doing anything is already no, right from the beginning, right? And that for me has proven to be a very motivating life philosophy, because I got a lot of no's, but I've also got a lot of yeses.
And I see that as darts, and you can hit however many darts it takes. It's
exactly,
you'll hit it.
Well, and just even one yes is enough to keep the dream alive.
Yeah. Well, and look, he's had a couple of yeses, and he's going. It's not. It's still, even today, you probably get a few no's. But it might not be because of you. It may be because something happened with the project.
You're describing my job hunt right now. It's got a lot of no's. A lot of no's.
And here's another harsh reality of life. It doesn't, in the entertainment business, it doesn't matter what you did 15 minutes ago. It doesn't matter. You could have won the Academy Award. The next question is, oh, so what are you doing now?
Right, exactly.
And I get more no's than yeses by a long shot.
Yeah.
But if you don't play, you can't win. So, and I've got a mortgage, and I've got a family, and, it's like I have expenses. I can't afford to sort of sit in this place of like, well, I'm just going to wait until they call me. It's like, you know what? That
ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, at a certain point, I think accepting that failure is a part of success is a really important life lesson, and not everybody learns it.
Well, that's the sort of the I've heard Richard Branson say that, and Nelson Mandela say that. It's not about how many times you fall down, it's about how many times you get up.
That's about how
you fall down, but it's how you get up that really determines.
Yeah, I totally.
Hi, this is Andy Collin from Growing Up Aspen, and I'd like to thank you for listening into the chat with Chris Pomeroy and Adam Kane, talking about film, and wish you the best, and would like to encourage folks to attend local art house theaters. The small last theater in our hometown of Aspen is about to shut down, so we'd like to draw attention and hope that people keep these theaters alive. Also, the authors of Growing Up Aspen, Adventures of the Unsupervised. If you're interested, our book can be purchased at twistandturnpress.com or any local bookstore. Thanks.